Chapter 1. Trouble in Paradise. "Where is Cyanus?" Arrhenius said, entering the garden with a beverage in her hand. She squinted as the sun's glare appeared from behind a cloud, accentuating the wrinkles of age on her face. "In the woods, I believe, dear," Bade said. He could only look at his wife for a short while before the growing suspense of his novel reclaimed his lost attention. All Bade seemed to do was lie in his lounge chair in the garden and read his book. The sun's piercing rays had no effect on him, since only pockets of it pushed through the thick leaves of the yapper tree he was lazing under. He fluidly moved his bangs to the side, anxious not to miss a single word on the page. "Ugh," Arrhenius said, setting Bade's drink hard on the table beside him and quickly turning back to the kitchen. Startled, Bade looked up to see Arrhenius as she walked briskly away. From there he started surveying the defenses of his abode as personal preference dictated. 4 high towers loomed above, casting shadows on the stables behind it. Connected by high walls, the guardsmen had free passage to move between them. Seated upon the towers stood the Gauntradorian banner, its navy blue background with the family seal in dark silver billowing in the wind. The seal depicted the castle tower with an octopus sitting on top, its tentacles draped along the multiple sides of the tower to hold it in place. The octopus held a sword and shield in its free tentacles. The courtyard allowed the noble family to socialize with the gentry and leaders from other provinces. Bade then set his sights on the colorful garden nearby. Barely visible through the afternoon sun, Bade could just make out the alabaster parapets of the imperial city, the shining epicenter of the kingdom. With his routine scan complete, Bade returned to his breathtaking story, holding it up to block out the sun from his eyes. Arrhenius tied back her long gray hair and started chopping vegetables on a cutting board as soon as she got back to the kitchen. A servant came in through the door of the dining room, where her co-workers had been busy setting the table. "Milady," the servant girl said nervously. Arrhenius did not hear the softly uttered words. The servant girl shifted in place. "He knows his sister is coming to visit," Arrhenius muttered, chopping bits of celery, potatoes flying all over the apron tied around her tall, bony frame. The servant girl started again, ignoring Arrhenius's mutterings. "Milady," the girl said again. "Yes, what is it?" Arrhenius replied, harsher than intended, staring at the girl in the doorway but not quite recognizing who it was. The girl shied away before Arrhenius realized to whom she was speaking. "Oh, Farron, it's just you." Arrhenius took a moment to regain her composure. The servant girl looked back up at her mistress. "Well, what's the matter?" "Forgive my intrusion, but I wondered whether or not you needed any help with the preparations, milady," Farron said. "No," Arrhenius replied. "None at all, but thank you for the thought." Farron bowed and returned to her duties. As Arrhenius continued chopping, she remembered helping her mother in the kitchen when she was a child. Even though neither Bade nor Arrhenius grew up as nobles, Bade had an easier time adjusting to his new pampered lifestyle that his wife found to be boring. Thus, she tended to revert back to her more simple life at first opportunity. Arrhenius looked out to where Bade was now sleeping in the garden. His silhouette was small and serene against the much grander background. Seeing past her napping husband, she looked to the landscape beyond, which was spectacular in its mix of rolling hills, with a valley of trees separating the hills from her. The orange sun glowed in the backdrop, giving the hills and trees in the valley a calming reprieve from the heat of the day. Arrhenius was snapped back to reality upon hearing multiple loud bangs at the door. "They're here, oh blast it," Arrhenius said, fumbling around in a frantic attempt at organization. First she heard the hurried footsteps of the servants as they too put the finishing touches on the dining room and opened the oaken door. Second, she heard polite greetings, which were responded to in like manner, and more shuffling of feet. Once done with all the work in the kitchen, Arrhenius rushed to the entrance hall to see her pregnant daughter standing there, with her rather large husband behind her. "Gloria!" Arrhenius smiled and opened her arms wide to embrace her daughter. "Hello, Mother. It's great to see you," Gloria said, squeezing her mother tightly. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Bade walking casually towards the front door and stopping at the staircase. "Father!" Gloria threw her arms around her dad and kissed his cheek. She stood on tiptoes as she hugged her father. "It's great to be home again. Thank you so much for having us." "It's my pleasure, sweetheart," Bade replied, smiling at the return of his firstborn. Looking behind Gloria, Bade saw his colleague, Dauntless, who judged the keep inside and out with his piercing blue eyes, like an inspector. "Ah, Dauntless, how have you been these days? It's been a while since we've spoken." Dauntless stepped through the threshold of Bade's house, fixing his old friend with his friendly yet slightly disconcerting gaze. He was taller than the average man, the barbarian blood within him the most likely cause. "Hello, Bade. It's nice to see you again," Dauntless replied, and then stepped into the keep. He took off his helmet, and out sprouted bushy yellow hair that Dauntless was known to flip out of his face from time to time. When everyone got comfortable and cozy in the sitting room, Araniah started playing host. "Well, dinner still needs a few more minutes, so why don't we go into the dining room and start with some appetizers? Now, where is that Cyanus?" "Don't worry," Bade replied, slowly getting to his feet again. "I'll get him." Bade journeyed up to his bedroom, looking out the window on the way up and seeing the orange sun continue its slow decline. Upon entering his dimly lit room, Bade pulled out a wooden chest from underneath his four-poster bed. Inside there was a large golden bell with a long handle. Bade lifted it out, opened the windows facing the nearby wood, and started ringing it as loud as he could while shouting, "Cyanus! Cyanus!" The ringing was heard throughout the farthest reaches of the wood. Cyanus was unable to ignore the auditory blast as the object of his attention frantically darted back towards its den.